Hello everyone. Today, I have an amazing story for you. It's not just for your listening practice, but also to inspire you. The story is called Nothing is Free, and it will show you that hard work and determination can change lives. There was a young man named Paul, 20 years old, living in a small, quiet town surrounded by mountains. Paul had big dreams. He wanted to own a chain of animal shelters and become a successful philanthropist, but life wasn't easy for him. Paul's family was struggling financially. His father, Joseph, was a vet, and his mother, Michelle, cleaned houses to make ends meet. Paul's younger sister, Emily, was just 10 and looked up to him as her hero. One cold evening, Paul sat outside his small house, staring at the stars. He whispered to himself, "I want to give my family a better life. But how do I start when we barely have enough to survive?" The next day, Paul shared his dreams with his father, Joseph. Joseph sighed and said, "Paul, dreams are not free. If you want something, you have to fight for it. Start with what you have, even if it's small." Paul thought deeply about his father's words. Then, an idea struck him. He noticed that in his town, people loved their pets, but had to travel to a clinic far away for basic, low-cost grooming and checkups. He decided to start offering mobile pet grooming and care locally, but there was a problem. Paul had no money to buy the equipment or supplies. He decided to take a chance and approach the animal clinic's accountant, Mr. Clark. Paul walked miles to meet Mr. Clark, a grumpy old CPA who rarely trusted anyone. With confidence, Paul said, "Mr. Clark, I want to offer mobile pet grooming and low-cost care in my town, but I don't have money to buy the supplies up front. Can you trust me for 1 week? I will provide the services. Return your money for the supplies, and keep a small profit." Mr. Clark raised an eyebrow and asked, "And why should I trust you, young man?" Paul replied firmly, "Because I am determined, and I will work hard to prove myself." After a long pause, Mr. Clark said, "All right, I'll give you the supplies for 1 week. If you fail to pay me back, don't bother coming here again." Paul was thrilled. Early the next morning, Paul carried the supplies back to his town and set up a small stand near the park. He greeted every pet owner with energy and a smile, saying, "Low-cost grooming and basic checks. Safe and professional." At first, people were hesitant. They didn't know if the care would be good, but Paul offered free basic checkups and soon had his first customer. By the end of the day, he had used all the supplies, earned a small profit, and returned to Mr. Clark to pay him back. The old man nodded and said, "You kept your word. Come back tomorrow." From then on, Paul worked tirelessly. He woke up at 4 a.m. After 2 months, he had saved enough money to buy a small cart and basic grooming table, making it easier to transport more supplies and offer better service. One day, a customer suggested, "Paul, you're good at the animal care, but if you want a chain of shelters, you need to understand the finances and regulations completely. If you handle the books, you'll make more profit and know where to get grants." This idea excited Paul, but it also scared him. He had never touched an accounting book in his life. This was the moment where Paul realized, nothing is free, not success, not knowledge, not growth. If I want to succeed, I must take risks and learn. Paul decided to ask Mr. Clark for help. The next morning, after delivering his payment, Paul said, "Mr. Clark, can you teach me about nonprofit accounting and grant applications?" The old man frowned. "Why should I teach you? If you handle your own books, you won't need me anymore. That's bad for my business." Paul looked at him and said, "You are right, but I won't forget the man who gave me my first chance. If I succeed, I'll make sure to direct new clients to your services too." Mr. Clark thought for a moment, then said, "Fine, but accounting isn't easy. It takes time, patience, and hard work. If you are ready for that, I'll teach you." The lessons began early the next morning. Paul arrived at the clinic at 3 a.m. Mr. Clark showed him how to manage ledgers, track donations, and structure applications perfectly. At first, Paul struggled. His mind hurt from complex financial tracking, and his grant applications came back either too hard to understand or missing key documents. One day, after ruining another batch of financial forms, Paul sat down feeling defeated. He said to himself, "Maybe I'm not good enough for this. Maybe I should give up." But then he remembered his father's words. Dreams are not free. He realized that every mistake was teaching him something new. Giving up was not an option. The next day, Paul went back to the office with even more determination. He practiced every single step carefully. Slowly, his financial report started improving. After 2 weeks, Mr. Clark handed him a clean ledger and said, "This is sound, Paul. You are ready." Paul was overjoyed. He used his savings to rent a small office and began operating a basic adoption center he called Paul's Paw Partners. His family was amazed by his hard work. Emily, now 11, helped him keep the center tidy, and his mother, Michelle, managed the donation accounts while he worked late into the night. Soon, Paul was doing more than just basic care. He started hosting small adoption events and raising small funds. People in the town loved his efforts. They said, "Paul's commitment to the animals is better than anything we've seen before." But success wasn't easy. One day, a new pet center opened in the town, run by a young man named Eddie. Eddie had a big, fancy shop with colorful signs and decorations. People were curious and started donating to him instead. Paul noticed his funds dropping. He felt scared. What if he lost everything he worked so hard for? But instead of panicking, Paul decided to improve. He listened to his donors and asked, "What do you like about Eddie's center? What can I do better?" Some said, "Eddie's shop looks clean and pretty." Others said, "His marketing materials have beautiful designs." Paul realized he needed to grow, not just as a caregiver, but as a fundraiser and businessman. Using his savings, Paul painted his rented office, added bright decorations, and started offering free seminars on pet health. He even learned how to write compelling grant applications by watching videos in the library. Slowly, donors returned to him. One evening, an elderly woman named January Jones came to Paul and said, "I've seen many young men give up when times get hard, but you didn't. That's why we trust you with our money." Her words filled Paul with pride. Months passed, and Paul's mission grew. He saved enough money to rent a small, separate shop. It wasn't as big as Eddie's, but it was warm and welcoming. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, prepared the space, and opened his shop with a smile. His parents and sister helped him. Paul's Paw Partners was becoming the heart of the town. But life wasn't done testing Paul. One stormy night, as Paul was closing his shop, he noticed smoke coming from the kennel area. He rushed inside and saw that a small electrical fire had started near the cages. He quickly grabbed a fire extinguisher and managed to stop the flames. But much of his equipment and some records were damaged. The next morning, when the townspeople heard about the fire, they came to check on him. Some said, "Oh no! What will Paul do now?" Others whispered, "Maybe this is the end for him." Paul felt heartbroken but not defeated. He stood outside his shelter and said, "This is just a challenge. I've faced struggles before, and I will face this too. I won't give up." He calculated how much money he had saved and realized it wasn't enough to replace all the equipment. For a moment, fear crept in. But Paul remembered his journey. Instead of sitting and worrying, Paul asked for help. He approached Mr. Clark, who had retired, and said, "Sir, I need advice. What would you do if you were me?" Mr. Clark smiled and said, "Paul, you already know the answer. You've taught yourself that nothing is free. Work harder." Inspired, Paul decided to rebuild. He didn't wait for someone to rescue him. He started temporary care services at home again, with the little equipment he had left. He told his customers, "I won't let you down. I'll keep serving you even if it's just a small amount for now." The townspeople admired his courage. Many of them started helping him. Some donated supplies, others gave small amounts of money, and a few offered their time to help him clean and repair the damaged area. Paul realized something important. When you work hard and never give up, people notice. They want to help someone who helps themselves. After months of hard work, Paul reopened his shelter. It was better than ever. He painted the walls, added new safety decorations, and even introduced new programs like community training and foster care. His customers and volunteers were overjoyed. On the day of the grand reopening, the town's mayor came and said, "Paul, You are a true inspiration. You've shown us all that with determination. Anything is possible. Paul stood in front of the crowd and said, I want to thank each one of you. You've taught me that nothing in life is free. Not success, not respect, not love. Everything must be earned with hard work, patience, and persistence. Never let failure stop you. Every challenge is just a step to something greater. From that day, Paul's Paw Partners didn't just provide shelter, it became a symbol of hope. People from other towns started visiting to meet the young man who never gave up. Paul didn't just build a shelter, he built a life full of purpose, respect, and pride. And so can you.